I never doubted the presence of God in the moments that followed after we were home at the time of the lightning, and the chaos that followed. I never felt alone. I had this very, very strong presence, felt the presence of God. And, you know, of course, I begged him and pleaded with him to intervene and to put it out and to stop it and to save our home. But then as it progressed and I realized we were past the point of no return and it was going to go, then I remember having this conversation with him, like, okay, so we're really going to go here. You're going to really let this happen to us. You're going to let this happen. I couldn't believe it. It was, and it felt like the discipline of a favorite parent or a favorite uncle, or for the very first time, like, you can't believe that they would let something of this magnitude happen to you. Then I can remember just right after I had this conversation with him in my head, I just heard these words, and I just believe it was from him, and I heard him say, "You think that you have this house, and you think that I would never take it from you. But you have nothing except what I give you. And at this moment, it is your husband and your children." And after I heard that, and I just watching my house go up in smoke, that's when he got through to me, and that's when I knew what was going on. I knew immediately the words that I had spoken just a month prior. I could see clearly, you know, what he was doing, and it was just, I was undone. Like, I really finally got it. And so, you know, he was completely right, and so there was really nothing left for me to do but stand there and accept his really specific chastisement, I guess, if you want to call it that, because I knew what he was doing. It was probably the most holy experience, most holy moment that I've ever experienced in my life. Just standing there with this, having this word from him, and knowing that and this was his, you know, whether you view this as directly from his hand or a result of his permission. I mean, nothing happens without God's permission, and so it really doesn't matter. I mean, he was all over the circumstances, and I knew that very strongly, and so to feel that he was intervening, and he had basically inserted himself and stepped into our lives in such an awesome way, and to kind of alter the course of my natural path that I was taking, and really I felt like he just helped me out of my rebellion, and you know, that's why I felt like it was just this holy, I was standing on holy ground, and it was just awesome. The first house, we built it in 2003, 2004, and while it was still in its stick form, we had friends come over and we handed them all Sharpies, and they came and wrote scripture and prayers and blessings on all, as many studs as they wrote everywhere. So our house was loaded with these blessings, and they signed their name and they signed the date, and I, as the house was, in shambles and in pieces, things were exposed, and I got to go through the house as we were cleaning up, and just I would see these scriptures and these promises and these blessings, and it was just an incredible gift in the middle of that chaos and mess, these nuggets of his promises and his and just another vision of like support from friends, and it was amazing to see those again. There was one day I remember cleanup took about 4 months to tear out all of the debris and then get to a place where we could start rebuilding again. And I remember Dan called me from work and he said, well, I just talked to the contractor and they're done with the cleanup, and so we'll start rebuild on Monday. So I said, okay, I just wanted to go. I hadn't been to the house in a couple of days, so I decided to drive over here by myself. I was alone, and I pulled up in front of the house and looked at it from the road, and I couldn't believe what I was looking at, and I just lost it. Our house was stripped of all of the brick, and all the studs were exposed, but the whole second story was gone. It was just the first story, and those first floor studs were going to be in the new house, which meant that almost all of the scriptures, the promises, were going to be in the new house, the blessings for the new house. It was completely hosed clean. I mean, it was so clean. I could not believe how spotless it was. And there was this chain link fence around the outside to keep people out. And everything was washed in white. There was white paint on just about every part of the house. And I knew exactly what he was doing. I mean, it was this vision, this was this visual of the promise that he gave me when I started out of Daniel 4 and the stump and his protection and his restoration. And it was just this gift that he's like, here, I just want you to remember that I keep my promises and I'm with you. I know what I'm doing, and you're going to make it, and you're going to get a do-over. And every part of it is a do-over, not just your marriage, but even your home. And it was just the most amazing gift to me. You know, there's nothing in this life that is off limits to God if he chooses, when he chooses to take it. And I knew that in my head, but I was experiencing it in my life now. You know, just having this little taste of his power and sovereignty to do as he pleases. And it just made me, it kind of made me think of, you know, in light of Good Friday, it makes me think about, you know, how Jesus, his story as well, you know, Jesus was there at the creation of the world, and yet when he was on this earth and he was in the garden, about to fulfill his purpose, you know, he prayed, let there be another way. Please find another way to do this. And, you know, God answered no to that part of his prayer. He answered no to Jesus. So not even Jesus was off limits to the will and the purpose when God has a plan. And I just, you know, it was nothing for him to take this house to get to my heart. And it was nothing for him to raise it back up again. It's nothing to do that. And it just really put life into perspective for me. You know, it just, God just got so much bigger through this. But yet at the same time, you know, as I was experiencing his discipline, or whatever you want to call it, you know, he was so tender and gracious through in all the details. You know, we never. I mean, we got out of the house before the smoke detectors went off, so none of us were injured. We were all safe. Our photos, most of all of our photos made it. You know, because that's what people think of first, is you lost all these mementos and all these things. And really, I mean, all of our important documents were saved. He likes to woodwork, and he's made several pieces of furniture throughout the years, and every single piece is still with us. I mean, upstairs, the only things that made it through the fire were your pieces of furniture, so he saved those. I mean, you know, just all these little things, all these little details. He didn't have to do any of that. He didn't have to save those things, or be that detailed, you know. And sometimes he doesn't do those things, but he did them for us. He did them for me, and he showed me with that visual of the house. You know, I'm blown away at the way he cares for us, and how he leads us through this life, and just gives us these little gifts, even in the midst of, you know, tragedy or devastation. So, you know, looking back, I feel like this fire was a blessing, and it has become my memorial, or, you know, my Ebenezer stone, my marker of just so many things about God and his character. We moved back into the house 9 months after the fire, and our marriage, it's not perfect, never will be probably, but it's better, and it's healthy again, and which is another, you know, sign of his mercy. And almost every day I can walk through my home, and I just see all these, you know, it's just loaded with, it's a treasure chest full of reminders of his love and his care and his discipline and his promises. God is powerful, but he's tender. He's holy, but he's good. He gives, and he can take. May the name of the Lord be praised.